Thanks everyone for joining us. Today we're looking at the year that redefined enterprise technology and previewing what comes next. 2025 wasn't just another incremental step. It was the year that AI fundamentally changed how companies operate. We'll walk through the major shifts we saw across the industry, the innovations Microsoft announced at Ignite, and the priorities we believe organizations should adopt as we head into 2026. Our goal is to give you a clear, practical understanding of how these changes impact your business, your teams, and the way work gets done. So, with that, let me introduce you to our speakers. My name is Rahana Mead. Please call me Ro. I am the CEO and founding partner of Synergy Technical. And when I look at technology, I'm looking at it really from two lenses. The first is I'm a former CIO, so I want to make sure that I understand in my CIO role, would I be using this technology and does it make sense? And then as a business leader, I look at it around how it can transform our business. I am joined by Clay Westbay and Dan Finn. Make sure I got you guys on the right side. So if you guys would like to introduce yourself, that
Sure.
would be great.
Great. Clay Westbay, Vice President of Delivery here at Synergy Technical. I oversee all of our delivery services and support services, so all of our great engineers delivering those services across the board. And happy to be here today and talking about what's new with Microsoft.
And I'm Dan Finn. I'm our Vice President of Sales. I think that's pretty self-explanatory for my role, but I've been here for 6 years. I've been in the space for 15 and had the opportunity to attend Ignite and sort of formulate some of the announcements that we want to bring to everyone today that didn't get the chance to sit in all of those sessions. So excited to be here as well.
I'm going to add to your VP of sales, though, because I think it's important to note that your sales team is a very collaborative selling team. They sell solutions. It's not just pushing something.
Oh, absolutely. We could not do that. I was talking to someone in the office today about how we don't have to be product pushers because we're not selling a specific product, right? We don't have to call and force Intune on you or Defender on you. So we really look to understand your architecture as it stands today and then your initiatives for the next 24, 36 months and where we see a potential fit, a potential value add, a potential security solution or collaborative approach. That's our sale. Our team is trained on more consultative approach than anything else.
I want to make sure we're
It's important to call it that our sales team is certified as well. Not only my team in all the solutions that we're talking about today, but our sales team.
Absolutely, that's true. Well. Yes, and that is a requirement of our sales team. So it's awesome. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and move on into the meat of the presentation. So here we go. All right, a little bit about us. So Synergy Technical started in 2011 with a simple belief. The cloud was going to reshape the way businesses operate. And we were right. And I bet my career on that by quitting my job as a CIO. So I'm glad we were right. But that early conviction set the tone for who we are, a company that leans into disruptive technologies before they become mainstream. From the very beginning, our focus has been on helping organizations modernize securely and intelligently. Today, with teams across the US, Canada, and India, we've grown into a leader in cloud security, productivity, and AI-driven transformation. We're proud to be a Microsoft 365 Deployment Partner of the Year, a top 10 licensing partner, and one of the roughly 50 partners nationally managed by Microsoft. These designations are important. They reflect the depth of our expertise and the trust customers place in us. And again, sales team is certified, delivery team is certified. So we really know what we're doing.
And you talk about being on the cutting edge of technology. We do call out in this presentation preview features where they're coming to a tenant near you soon. But we try to be on the cutting edge so you can plan appropriately, right? You don't want to make changes today when a new feature is going to be in your tenant figuratively next week, sometimes literally next week.
Right.
So some of this will be forward looking, but that's the whole point of this webinar.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we say technology is our world. That's our operating slogan, really. But that means some specific things to us. We've deployed more than 23 million cloud users, which gives us a deep experience-driven understanding of how Microsoft technologies are used in organizations. We support customers in all 50 states and have delivered projects in over 70 countries. And our industry experience spans from nonprofits to healthcare, banking to manufacturing, and everything in between, really. We work with customers from SMB to large, complex, highly regulated enterprises, helping them simplify, modernize, and secure their environments. And the solutions we deliver, cloud implementations, AI enablement, technology strategy, and licensing advisory, are exactly what organizations need as they prepare for an AI-driven future, which I think we're all doing now. This is the foundation that allows us to help customers move fast, stay secure, and lead with confidence, especially in the environment that we are in today. So we really always have been at the forefront of technology. All right, moving on. When customers come to us, it's usually because something matters. It's a security threat, they want to do a major rollout of technology, or they have a transformation that has to go right. There's no room for error in it. And in those moments, they really don't want a firm that's learning as they go, or we're seeing this now, using AI tools to look up the answer. They want this happens a lot
I
now.
just had a customer complain yesterday about this. Yeah.
Yes. They want to see real experts, and that's why our Microsoft designations mean so much. Earning the security solutions partner status with an advanced threat specialization is something that only a tiny percentage of partners achieve, and that tiny percentage is like less than 2% of the Microsoft partners. So it's very difficult to get. And those designations really come from years of stopping real attacks and building zero trust environments that protect organizations when it counts. On the modern work side, our advanced specializations reflect the same thing. Proven success helping people and organizations work better, communicate better, and adopt technology that actually sticks. We are never going to sell you something that we don't think makes sense in your environment, and we're going to help you light it up every single time. The important thing is that these aren't just badges. They're proof that when it matters, our team absolutely knows exactly how to deliver the technologies that we're working with.
Including these certifications help us become part of Microsoft's incubation programs, which they call Jumpstart. But we were in, from a device management perspective, we were in Intune's Jumpstart program. From a VDI perspective, we were in the Cloud PC Jumpstart program. And now I'd say obviously, but it might not be obvious to all the attendees on the webinar, but we're also in the Copilot, and we've been rated as a prioritized partner in their Jumpstart program. So all, thanks to the quality of our engineering and delivery team.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get to the meat of it. 2025 was the year I think we can all agree that AI finally got real. So for a while, everyone was dabbling. I think even we were to a certain extent. We saw a lot of pilots. There were some use cases being tested and kind of some experimenting around the edges. But this year, something really fundamentally shifted and changed. Organizations stopped treating AI like a side project and started building it into the actual way they operate. And that's true of our customers. That's true of us. We're seeing that all around within our install base. We started seeing what the industry is calling frontier firms, and those are companies that run with intelligence basically on tap. These companies aren't asking, where can AI help anymore? Instead, they're redesigning workflows so humans and AI agents are working together from the start. And when that happens, the speed and capacity gains are huge. Work that used to take days or weeks suddenly gets done in hours. People also begin to realize that deploying AI really isn't just a tech challenge. It's a true business transformation. And this is probably the first real business transformation technology we've seen in a long, long time. We would talk about equating it to the dawn of the internet. And it feels like that to me, but maybe more extreme. AI changes how teams are structured, how decisions get made, how information flows, even what people's jobs look like. And the companies that treat AI as a business shift, those are the ones that are really moving ahead. Another interesting thing that happened this year is how measuring ROI evolved. It really isn't just about saving time and money anymore. Instead of just the financials, leaders started looking at quality, customer experience, innovation, and I think most importantly, employee satisfaction. Like, how does implementing this technology impact my employees and their job and their enjoyment of doing their job? By the end of the year, a new picture has really emerged. And these are organizations that are AI operated, but human led. And I want to double down on that human led. It's AI and human beings working together to solve problems. That's the operating model we see our customers heading into, one that's faster, more adaptive, and a lot more capable than anything we've ever seen before. So it's a really exciting time to be in technology. All right, let's talk about what makes an organization a frontier firm. When we talk about frontier firms, we're talking about organizations that didn't just adopt AI, they rebuilt the way that they work around it. The first big shift is that AI isn't stuck in pilots or isolated teams anymore. It's embedded across every major workflow. Finance uses it, HR uses it, operations uses it. It becomes part of the organization's bloodstream and its DNA. But even with all that automation, these companies are still very much human led. People set the direction, make the judgment calls, and define what good really looks like. The agents simply carry out the work at a scale that we've never had access to before. So you can do a lot more faster in this scenario. What that's led to are this concept of hybrid teams. These are humans working alongside agents to take on research, planning, coordination, analysis, even end-to-end processes. And when you work that way, speed goes through the roof. Processes that used to take weeks compress into days or hours. And I think we're seeing that even in our organization with things like producing statements of work or reviewing contracts. The combination of agents working alongside our people is making things happen just a lot faster.
I saw an interesting stat highlighted at Ignite, and Dan, you probably saw this. They said that employees are on average saving about 5 hours a week. So if that's per employee and you take that and you extrapolate that across the whole organization, that's a huge impact.
Absolutely, yes. What's also interesting is how these organizations structure themselves. They're outcome driven, not function driven, and that's important. Instead of traditional org charts, teams form around goals, which is really what the industry is now calling a work chart. They also adopt a culture of experimentation. They test things, iterate quickly, learn fast, and scale what works, all with clear metrics and clear guardrails. And the employee experience actually is getting better. People have more meaningful work, more scope, and a faster path to growth because the agents are really taking on the repetitive work. The last thing I think that's really important is universal AI fluency. Everyone, regardless of their role, is expected to use AI daily and develop the skills to manage agents effectively. And that's really, really important. AI isn't going away, and I think there has to be an expectation that your employees are using it, because if they're not, you're losing a competitive advantage at this point. But all of these pieces together are really what are separating what we're now calling frontier firms from everyone else. So when we talk about Ignite was really all about enabling the frontier firm and the firm of the future.
Yeah, it's a really helpful overview, Ro, about the frontier firm. And if you're a Microsoft user, if you've been in the Microsoft ecosystem for long enough, you're very familiar with Contoso, which is their favorite fictitious organization and demo tenant name. They have a new Contoso, and it's called Zava, Z-A-V-A, and it's not the goal scoring, maybe egotistical forward from Ted Lasso. It's a agentic enabled frontier firm that has tech enabled retail brand. So workout clothes, athleisure, gym shoes, everything that's all tech enabled. So it makes a great use case for the new Contoso, right? So while that's not on the slide, I think it's interesting to lead with because we're going to cover some product updates, some feature enhancements. But if anyone knows me well enough, you'll know that I'm going to try to interject real life stories, some anecdotes, some real use cases that you can take into your organization today. And with Clay's help, dive into how we secure and govern, but also some trials and tribulations of us working with this tool internally and with customers for the last couple of years already, which is crazy to say the last couple of years with AI because it feels like this was all announced a month ago at best. But let's jump into some of the Ignite announcements around how we can enable from a technology perspective the frontier firm. So Agent 365, these all actually, everything on this slide here came out through the keynote itself. So obviously part of the highlights and what Microsoft wants you to walk away with, but Agent 365 is something IT admins have been asking for on a regular basis. If you're familiar with Teams sprawl, which we've dealt with for the last 5 or 6 years, teams keep growing and growing. How do I control this, govern this, standardize this? The same thing's happening with agents, as everyone has, I should say, air quotes, everyone has started to understand Gen AI and its capabilities. But now the asks have been, I want to build an agent. I need to create an agent. I have an agent that works for me personally or directly for my team, much less getting to org-wide agent enablement. But IT's main concern has been, how do I control this? How do I understand where the agents are? Who's using them? How do I make sure the data stays safe? What are the costs across my agents? This tool is built for you, and we'll talk a little bit more about it on a additional slide here. WorkIQ is an interesting announcement. So this is an intelligence layer that you are not going to be able to see necessarily directly, I should say. You'll see the outputs from it. You won't be able to touch it or manage it. Good news, you don't have to buy it. It's being baked right into your AI solutions, but it's this layer underneath the hood, so to speak, in the Microsoft Graph that's for understanding your company's patterns, who you work with, the context of your workflows and projects, and ultimately return more relevant results. So if you look at educating the end users, really since day one, there's been a level setting around expectations of Gen AI. And I use Gen AI specifically because AI is a much wider term. But there's been a level setting of expectations of, hey, I asked it to write this email, but how come it doesn't know who my boss is? How come it couldn't address this email to the right person? WorkIQ is the answer to that. It's going to understand the org chart. It's going to understand how I, Dan Finn, speak in my normal communications and draft my communication sounding more like me. Again, not, still human-led, as Rose said. But it's really another proof point. While this isn't something from an administrative perspective you're going to have to manage, it's another proof point that AI just continues to get better, though. And we can all argue if it's literally daily, it's probably more like weekly and monthly that these new features are rolling out. But what I want everyone to walk away from this webinar, if nothing else, and not to devalue everything else we're going to say here today, but no tool has ever pushed the boundaries of change management the way AI will. There's new features all the time, and to embrace that experimental mindset of what's this new agent? Let's download it, plug it in, see how it works. I can delete it if it doesn't work. If I want to deploy it org-wide, I'll run it through that process. I have a steering committee in place to help me enable that. AI is going to push the boundaries on how we train our users and how we embrace change. It already is, but if you're just getting your toes dipped in the water, that's a key takeaway I want you to understand. For example, on the pace of change would be some of the Copilot Studio enhancements. So GPT 5.1 was announced. Again, figuratively next week, it's going to be GPT 6. We're not going to get into the nuances of the 4.0 versus 4.5 versus 5.0 versus 5.1 models. They just continue to get better. And the beauty of Copilot is it's going to pick which tool, which LLM, which language to use based on your prompt and the application you're in to return the best result. And that's again seen with their Anthropic partnership. So they announced this, they brought on Anthropic's, I believe it was a CMO or CRO on stage during the keynote. And the explicit reasoning, it's no longer a sole partnership with OpenAI and the Chat GPT maker for Microsoft 365 Copilot, was for all you Excel and PowerPoint users. I know the feedback had been, Copilot's not quite there yet, right? It's not doing everything I hoped it could do. The Anthropic partnership was explicitly stated as bettering their capabilities with Excel and PowerPoint, as well as growing their library of models and deeper reasoning. So another thing in Studio enhancements beyond just the models you can use would be agent testing automation. So think about the ability to test an agent prior to that would require deploy the agent, run some test prompts, see if it's what you were looking for, pull it back into the demo mode, reconfigure, redeploy, retest. That's now can all be done while you're building the agent. So you can add all your context, workflows, triggers, animations to the agent, test it while it's in this demo environment, confirm you're getting the outputs, the responses that you're looking for before you deploy to yourself, to your team, to your organization, speeding up that experimental mindset and the willingness to fail quickly. And then computer use rights is something when I first saw literally blew my mind. I'm using figuratively and literally a lot, but this one literally blew my mind. So computer use rights, think of it as an ability for AI to access local resources like your system settings, your files, or your apps. It can execute commands or scripts on the user's machine, and it can interact with, I'm going to call them enterprise systems, of course, securely under your own compliance rules. But I'm going to give you a for example here because the first time I saw it, it came with a video, which was very helpful. And our team, as this gets rolled out, will be happy to demo and build it into your use cases and help you build this. But we do a lot of M&A work with underneath our M&A practice. So we have a dedicated team for merging environments together or carving out users and their data from a parent entity that sold off an arm of their organization. So within a project, we're going into a vendor portal to get an update on users that have migrated. And then in order to report to the customer, we're transferring all that data in a fairly manual process into an Excel file or a BI dashboard and giving daily reports. Now, the engineering team has to do that every morning at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. in order for the project to stay on track. This is now an agent with computer use rights via Windows 365 that can log into that portal with your credentials you're providing, gather that information, pull it into the Excel file or the BI dashboard, and literally send the email to the customer. All of that information can be automatically transferred. Again, if a user's saving 5 hours a week, here's an hour every day, there's 5 hours a week, just from the computer use rights announcement. So I am very excited about that capability. And it's the scenario I just described uses things like multi-agent orchestration and model context protocol or MCP servers, which we'll continue to talk about here today. Another announcement, I know I'm spending some time on this slide, but they were key. Teams mode. So how do you share a response from Copilot or ChatGPT or any AI tool?
Copy paste.
Copy
Copy
paste.
paste. Taking it right off the iTalk. You copy paste it. So now we can share a thread directly with team members to collaborate from, you no longer have to copy paste the response. How'd you get that response? Oh, let me copy and paste my prompt. You can just go ahead and say, this was helpful, or you can start that Copilot right within a group chat or a team and a channel, and everyone can use that same prompting chat, that prompt thread, to have a brainstorm session, to come up with a new output in this collaborative environment that's so much more streamlined than what it has to be, what it used to be. It used to take that maybe into email, at best a chat. Hey, we should have a meeting to talk about this. Let's turn it into a Word document, do some redlining and some comments. And next time I'll look at it, that can all be in the same interface now, saving us again another hour a day for 5 a week. And then a very real, all of 2025, it's going to continue into 2026, has been, all of this sounds great, but I have my files in a different system. We use a third-party EDR tool from a security perspective. I still use Slack or Zoom, so my meetings are hosted somewhere else. I can't get all this data into a single AI tool. So how do I even go about this? And the answer in the Microsoft tooling has been Fabric. And Fabric also released a Fabric IQ. So much like Work IQ, Fabric IQ is going to wrap business meaning around raw data for responses that you can act on. So think of it as a data warehouse, a data lake house. They're calling it One Lake. You can, obviously, Synergy Technical is here to talk to you about moving those systems into the Microsoft ecosystem, saving on your vendor management, saving on your overall cost and IT operational budget. But you can also pull that data into Fabric. It doesn't need to be a full migration. It can be a copy or a mirror into Fabric. And that allows you to get all of this data into these great tools that we're talking about here today. So 5 key announcements. I probably threw 6 or 7 things at you, but I think we can go to the next slide from there,
Awesome.
which is where I wanted to talk about 2 more. But wait, there's more. So Agent 365, I said I would hit on that later. I'm going to continue for that to be later. Let me go to the bottom first. So that's a big announcement where customers that have worked with Security Copilot, the overall feedback, and Microsoft don't kick me for this, but the overall feedback has been, it's an impressive tool, but it's pretty costly. And I'll give you the, for example, the real life data behind that to pilot would be Microsoft recommends 3 secure compute units, what they're calling SCUs, which is like the horsepower behind Security Copilot. If you leave those running all year, 24/7 for your security analyst to take advantage of, that's going to be just shy of 100 grand. So to pilot, it's a 100 grand tool. That's a big commitment, right? This is now rolled into anyone that has E5 license. And there's a scaling we can talk about, but Security Copilot allows your analyst to do incident investigation, threat intelligence analysis, create guided remediation steps all through common language queries. And one of the cooler functions I've seen is summarizing alerts and then generating the reports. So your InfoSec team, your analysts spend so much time creating a report off of all incidents that need to go to the InfoSec team, they need to go to the CISO, and at times they're going to be escalated to the board of directors. That needs to include key critical information, but it also needs to have the right language for its intended audience. Security Copilot can take hours off their plate summarizing this. I still want that human-led component, making sure your people are fact-checking and validating and meeting your standards. But this tool was super beneficial for the InfoSec team. By rolling it into E5, what they're saying is now let's give this to your 365 admins. Let your endpoint management people leverage that. Let your Intune people leverage this. So Clay's going to talk a little bit more about how those agentic experiences, those Copilot agents are being dropped into security tooling. And then once you've got all these agents across your environment, back to agent sprawl, what Microsoft has done is created a unique Entra ID for every agent. So you can apply conditional access policies and monitor their activity. So things like what data is being ingested or is integrated into these agents, what is the overall usage, who's using them and how often, and how is that driving costs? Right within your 365 admin portal, Agent 365 is going to allow us visibility and control over these thousands of agents that are going to exist in your environment. I can quite literally see this becoming a service we manage and make those recommendations on behalf of customers for leveraging our expertise across AI. So coming to a tenant near you, Agent 365, to address a lot of questions we've been hearing.
All right, so Dan talked a lot about agents and kind of getting started on that Copilot journey. Microsoft Purview is the place to do that. So Microsoft Purview is Microsoft's data security and compliance platform. And so this is the platform that lets you kind of understand your data and put those permissions in place to prepare for your Copilot journey. And so within Microsoft Purview, we've got something called Data Security Posture Management, or DSPM. And with it, DSPM, Microsoft has introduced a number of new features. So if you've ever logged into Purview, you've seen there's a lot of information coming at you, a lot of different policies. And so what Microsoft has given us is some outcomes-based workflows. So what we can do is
sirens going by all day.
So what we can do is with just a click of a button, we can pick an objective, for example, reduce oversharing. So by picking that objective, we can get all the insights and the metrics and the risk patterns, and then we can get a remediation path at the click of a button to resolve that risk. And then we go into out-of-the-box posture reports. So again, creating these custom reports, it's not easy. And so what Microsoft has given us now is the ability to use these out-of-the-box reports to understand, do we have our data properly labeled? Is it mislabeled? do we have compliance drift in some areas? And we can do that with just a few clicks of the button. And once we kind of understand that, we can then take remediation actions here, and we can do that in bulk. So if you can imagine, if you do find a permission error, and you don't have things quite permissioned correctly, going in and re-permissioning a mass amount of data is a task. And so what Microsoft has announced is these bulk remediation actions. And so we've got our assessments, we've got our remediation plans, and then we've got these actions that we can take at the click of a button. Another larger kind of announcement here around DSPM is that traditionally Purview and DSPM has been kind of isolated to your Microsoft tenant data. Excuse the sirens there.
We do have a firehouse right next to our office.
And so Microsoft has now extended Purview into Fabric. So that was a big announcement. So now, for example, you can see if maybe you have your Power BI dashboards over permissioned or you're oversharing in that space.
These are capabilities it feels like customers were going to third-party tooling or doing a ton of manual effort to try to gather this data, create their own dashboard. It's all going to be quote unquote out of the box, right? It's all going to be built into these agents.
Yeah, I think that was the key here with DSPM, is just making it easier for the IT admin to quickly understand their entire estate, and including extending that into things like Snowflake and other third parties, right? I want one tool, one pane of glass where I can go and understand my data and get control. So those were the big announcements there. I think as we talk about agents, right, all of the productivity that Dan touched on is really excited. It's got the folks that are doing all the administrative and responsible for the security a little on edge, but I think Microsoft has shown here, particular with DSPM and all of these other security Copilot tools, that we've got the tools in place to monitor, to remediate issues, and put these policies in place across these agents so we can ensure that they're acting safely.
I think what Microsoft has done, we should have kept a tab counter in the bottom corner around number of times we say agents in a 60-minute session, but it's really important to take a step back even on that point. When we talked about Gen AI, what we've consistently seen in customer pilots is when you enable Gen AI, pick your tool. It doesn't have to be Copilot specific, but your users will spend the first 30 or so days, let's call it 30 or 60 days, using AI for search, using AI to summarize some emails, to create some documentation, and they'll quickly identify what becomes agents. They'll quickly bring back to the AI steering committee, these are all cool, nice to have things, but I now have an idea of how I can transform the business, and I can't get that done with the out-of-the-box tooling. So I want to level set there. That's why agents are coming out. That's what agentic AI is. That's why you see it on commercials during the football games on Sunday, and that's why we're talking about it here, is to really transform the business. You're going to be looking at agents. And what Microsoft's been doing on the back end when it comes to change management is they'll just unannounced, there will be more agents available for you in the agent store. So by having a 365 license, the paid version, I challenge you as you think of creative ways to build agents, or as you think of use cases for your organization, go to the store and search if an agent exists already. We had this happen literally on my team. A team member, an account exec, built an agent to do something specific around coaching capabilities. I'm like, this kind of jogs a memory. I dug into the store and I was like, do you mean this pre-published agent for a Microsoft? And they're like, well, there goes 3 hours of my time.
I'm going to argue, though, that was a learning experience for them.
Absolutely, it was. And that's what you want to enable across the organization, is the willingness to dive in, roll up your sleeves. But I also want to make everyone aware of the agents Microsoft's announcing. I'm not going to drain this slide. There's a lot on here that you can read through as we talk. But to that example around coaching, there's a learning agent where you can do AI role play. Like that's something in sales to be able to role play a conversation with a customer. You don't get an opportunity to do that often. And quite frankly, my team members don't want to do it with me on the phone. They're going to feel like I'm critiquing, which I am there to critique and give feedback. But to do that with AI in their own isolated environment is something you can do at 6 a.m., at 8 p.m., during the workday, whenever it makes sense for you, whenever you're comfortable, and be ready for that next presentation. Clay talked about around the IT administrative agents, but the ability to identify SharePoint governance risks, for example, by having a conversation with your SharePoint agent, all of a sudden you're enabling your workforce to do more quicker, but also like, do they need that same level of, I'm going to take that back. They need the same level of skill set and certification because they need to respond. They need to take the AI output and make sure it's
Makes sense.
factual and accurate for their organization, right? But they can get to that data quicker. And then take a look at, we're living in the SharePoint world, auto tagging and indexing information with metadata. That's a customer project I talked about yesterday with video content, right? You put in through a AI analyzer and it'll create all the metadata tags. So years and years of video content is now searchable through keywords. That's a project that would take months of multiple people that now is pennies on the dollar with the AI tooling and can be done in such a shorter time frame. And two that aren't even on the slide here, and then we can click through researcher and analyst. We've talked about them in previous webinars, but if you're not using them, download them, pin them.
Yeah.
It's a deeper learning model, so it's going to take a longer time to respond, but the output will impress.
Yes, I use researcher every day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so as Dan talked about Security Copilot and these agents, digging a little bit deeper into specific products again, we found these agents to be interesting. So Microsoft Intune, your device management platform that can manage all of your devices, not just Windows, but Mac, Linux, iOS, Android. This platform is introducing some pretty unique agents that we thought worth calling out. Starting with the policy configuration agent. So this is where your admins can actually type in your security policies in natural language and actually get prompted with the Intune policies that they can then put in place to meet their security requirements. Not only that, what's interesting is you don't actually have to type it out. You can just upload your security policy and it will give you the Intune policies that correspond with your requirements. You can then review those policies, edit them, and then deploy them. So you still need the IT security background to kind of understand what you're putting in place,
and what the impacts are going to be.
And the impacts.
Just break the machine.
But this kind of gives you a way to not have to sift through a bunch of policies and map them pretty quickly to your requirements. Change review agent, Microsoft called this out. This is really focused around scripts, but I think there's plans to kind of broaden this out later. But if you have PowerShell scripts that you are introducing into your environment, this agent will look at those scripts and look at the potential impact and risk so that you can go through the approvals process and deploy them with some certainty that these won't disrupt your environment. Device offboarding agent. So this is the agent that's kind of help clean your keep your portals clean of stale devices and streamline that. And then there was talk about Copilot for Intune. So this is GA today. Copilot for Intune is where you can actually use natural language to say, for example, show me all my devices where my firewalls are broken. So I'm not having to sift through that. I can say that with natural language. And the nice thing about this is that it has access not only to your environment's data, but also all of the Intune documentation, and the troubleshooting steps. So it's marrying all of that together to kind of give you not only your devices, but those remediations and actions to take on those devices. And then finally, there was some announcements around device readiness, resiliency, and update readiness. So Windows Remote Recovery. Windows Remote Recovery is so when there's outages across your and you can't get to devices, that's an IT admin's worst nightmare, right? You've got a device that's down and you can't get to that device or it's remote. Now, what Microsoft has introduced is the ability to recover that device without being able to boot, right? So if you can't deboot a device, you can rebuild that device using Microsoft Intune and be able to restore those devices at scale. Then we've got, this was a big topic for Intune, so granular updates, so being able to pinpoint windows and times, specific date and times when you want those devices to be updated. Previously, that was not available. It was a much requested feature. And then auto patch update readiness. So this is giving you a dashboard to kind of understand, are my devices ready for those updates before I deploy them? So all of this is really focused around reducing that downtime and keeping users and agents running. And that's what was kind of announced that we thought was key around Intune.
I think what's really cool about that, the multiple slides on Intune that you built out was, they even released Intune Remote Help and Advanced Analytics, which used to be higher end. Additional SKUs are being rolled into E3 and E5 as well. So more value in those existing licensing SKUs. And I was talking to a large bank client of ours recently. Then the 365 team is arguing with the InfoSec team on the right device management solution. And InfoSec last look at Intune 5 years ago, and they have a different tool that they like. So 365 team was just saying, when's the last time we looked at it?
Yeah.
To show all of the capabilities that are a part of Intune now and to come. It is a full-fledged enterprise-ready device management system for Windows, for iOS, for all the devices you have in your environment. If that point's not clear with the investments they're making with agents and AI around Intune, it's more clear than ever coming out of Ignite.
One of the cool announcements that I saw that is not in preview yet, but coming is managed backup. So if you think about when you get a new phone, if you've ever restored to a new phone from backup, you get all of your settings and all of your everything is exactly there, kind of as you had it. That's coming to Windows. So when you give that user a new laptop, it just restores from backup all of your custom settings, your bookmarks, everything.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Because you always lose a couple of days of productivity on hardware refresh.
Absolutely.
I didn't realize how many custom settings I had.
Yeah, that's huge.
Speaking of Windows.
Yeah, so Windows, there was a lot of announcements, I think, around Windows and the Copilot experience, but I think the overall theme of this is that Windows is now built not only for the end user interaction, but it's a platform now for our agents, right? So we've got our end user that's interacting with AI, but then we've got our agents that are also running on this platform. So we can actually build custom agents using Microsoft Foundry, and then those agents can run on this platform, which Microsoft's calling their Model Context Protocol, or MCP. So this is their new protocol that's built right into the operating system. But they touched on some key things about being able to talk directly, as Dan mentioned earlier, talking directly instead of typing in natural language, we're talking. Mm-hmm. So we're saying things like, hey, Copilot, pull up my meetings for today and tell me what I have coming up next and give me my notes to prepare for those meetings. So instead of typing all that out, I'm just saying that I'm also able to kind of interact with Copilot right there in the taskbar. Within File Explorer, I can hover over files and get those insights directly from Copilot, right-click, take action on it, do a prompt by highlighting and right-clicking to do. So some major boost to daily productivity. were announced with Windows, the new Windows and Copilot. Um, and I think one of the things here is just kind of going back to security is that Microsoft is, doing a nice job of marrying that productivity, marrying all of the new enhancements around productivity with security. Because
Right.
you can imagine from the security side, the admins are now thinking, okay, I had to worry about my end users. Now I got to worry about these agents that can go out there and autonomously act and share information.
Right.
And so Microsoft said, we got you. You can put those controls in place, and Windows is prepared for that.
Yeah. Very cool. And I think we got two more slides to take us home from a time perspective. We'll run through these, but we want to do a look ahead too, and let's look at 2026. I'm sort of laughing in the corner here as you talk about the Windows capabilities, and I'm just visualizing what's cool around using voice to interact. Pre-2026, let's call it, talking to your computer used to be a sign that maybe you need to take a break. I'm going to throw my keyboard out the window. It was someone that maybe was a little stressed at work, right? Well, now it's going to be the sign of a hyper-productive user. Someone sitting around the office talking to their computer is probably prompting Copilot and getting more done more efficiently.
So I'm going to inject into that.
Yeah.
And I think the way to think about that is you're not thinking of Copilot when you do that is necessarily a piece of software. You're thinking of it as, I've got to be real careful here, but you're thinking of it as an entity that you're talking to. The robot overlords comes to mind, but
Right.
you're treating it like a coworker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a coworker.
Yeah.
Yep. And they demoed this at Ignite. We all use Siri and Alexa already. I use voice AI all the time within my house, but even Mercedes was on the floor at Microsoft Ignite. They rolled out an entire car and they made it look like it's driving, and they're talking, "Hey, Mercedes," to their control panel and getting real-time stats around their car, of course, but then they could also say, let's find a local restaurant, let's find a gas station, and it's all running off of Azure AI. So we're going to be using voice to text, voice to Copilot is going to be very common looking into 2026. And then two other things around this slide, and then I want to recall, a previous webinar really, but the steps to take, the steps to success to implement all this in your organization. So getting your data in order, right, out of isolated systems that can really limit your capabilities to ultimately contextualize their correlations. It's fundamental. I was at a lunch yesterday where we're talking about these great use cases, and the head of technology for the clients that, like, it's great, but they're in different systems right now, right? Like, we either need a project to move them into a single system, or I got to buy or build data integrations into those. So identifying those use cases to get to this point, you want to run that project in parallel with still enabling your end users with Gen AI. You can't wait or hold them back because they're probably already using it, and that's a data leakage concern. Yeah, they are. I can take the probably out. It's almost 2026. But their next question, once they're using that tool for 30 days, is going to be, how come I can't do this against our file share or our security tool or our ERP system or our finance software? How come I can't get that data? How do I integrate that data? So be ready and run those projects in parallel. And then multi-agent ecosystems is probably the thing I'm most excited for. I've sat in workshops with Microsoft, with customers alike, and sometimes the desired end state is we want a universal agent, a catch-all, be-all. I prompt it with anything, and it knows the exact answer I'm looking for everything. And you get to the root of it with a data scientist, and they say, no, you want contextualized, specific agents that perform effectively, cost efficiently, and accurately, and then orchestrate them together to complete the workflow. So it can look to a user like a single universal agent completing a task, completing a process for you, but it's really going to be specific agents. And let me give you 2 for examples. I'll go with an IT admin example, but then I'm going to go with a productivity user business side example. So you can have an IT agent. We're going to call it IT agent. It detects that compliance risk we talked about in SharePoint, potential data leakage. The site admins might be identified as a risk for whatever reason. We can trigger then a security agent to apply Purview's data loss prevention policies according to our best practice. And then we can actually escalate that to these Intune agents that Clay talked about for device remediation. You can set up a trigger and have all of these agents work automated, in order, contextualized into your business processes, referencing your SOPs and KBAs, so it's accurate, right? Another one from the business side would be take your project managers or whoever's facilitating projects internally or externally, create an agent that can query your project online instance, your Jira, pick your software here for blockers within each project. It can automatically then kick that to a scheduling agent that books meetings in Teams. And then you can have a reporting agent that takes the output from those meetings, can update Jira and publish this to a dashboard in Power BI, all orchestrated via Model Context Protocol MCP servers. So I wanted to give you a couple specific examples around what those multi-agent orchestrations look like. And then we can go into some look ahead steps to implement. And I'm going to reference on this last slide. Obviously, there's areas, all of these areas are things we've been living in since early 2023. We can help with the data readiness. We can help with the Purview DSPM initiatives. And then customers are asking us for the end user training, continuous, again, I cannot enforce that enough, adoption, continuous training and change management. We've been calling them office hours, so they don't come off as a one-time training. We're going to drop them on your calendars weekly or bi-weekly. And then identifying agents, or really what you're going to say are transformative use cases for your business, and applying the right tooling to them. So there's a webinar myself and Stephen Rhodes did just a few months back titled something to the effect of 7 Steps to AI Success. This slide speaks to a lot of those components. So getting your data in order. The other key thing, so I have 2 key things everyone has to walk away with, is the pilots we see fail around AI are the pilots that are stuck within IT, where IT wants complete control.
Oh, I agree.
They're not comfortable exposing anything to the business until they've vetted 100% of the outputs and the data.
Guilty.
Yeah. AI will succeed when you pull in the business. They're going to have use cases. We've seen those aha moments in our work sessions with customers all the time. IT pulls in operations, supply chain, HR, finance, sales. Those business units bring in use cases IT can't be aware of. And all of a sudden we're like, oh, this is actually transformative, right? Like we're doing things we had never expected. So that AI committee needs to be cross-functional, because again, quick wins. Your users are going to start identifying those potential agents, and they need these AI champions to bring them back to. And Synergy Technical can be part of that team to say, A, is there an ROI for the business? But then B, what's the technical architecture we need to implement that, secure that, and govern that moving forward? And I think the final announcement, and Clay and Ro, add anything here if you'd like, but for the SMBs on the line, under 300 seats, keynote announcement too. We saved it for the end, but a price break, almost 33% price break for SMBs. You can now add Copilot for Business. It's the M365 Copilot equivalent for $21 a user a month rather than $30 a user a month.
That's a good savings.
It's a ton of savings. And again, we're seeing a lot of features roll into existing licensing. We're seeing the Copilot capabilities spread across the applications we already use today. It's a really fun time to be in this space, and happy to be here to support our customers going about that same journey.
As we know, the key is once those features come in, you gotta use them. You gotta deploy them. You gotta configure them, because so many times we talk to customers and see they're licensed for features but they're not taking the full advantage. So that's the key.
But we would pride ourselves on being a frontier firm here at Synergy Technical. Please talk to your account exec, reach out to our sales team, or hit us through the website and we'll get you in touch with the right person. We want to be having these conversations. We want to hear your use cases, your successes, your failures even. We're all going to learn from that. We are all learning about AI every single day.
Right.
There's different tiers and strategies and tooling. we're happy to have these conversations, and then our team is ready and able and certified through the stack to not just make you comfortable with everything we talked about here today, but really transform the business by enabling your end users with these tools.
Awesome. Well, we thank you for your time. This was a great discussion, and there's probably 400,000 other announcements we could go through. So we may,
You had to cut me off at some point.
may do another one. But all right. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.